Hello， 大家好，欢迎回到外媒看中国，我是安博然。The trade war between China and the US, which reached an uneasy truce at the end of May, is back in full swing, with US President Donald Trump freaking out over China's move to stop its rare earth minerals from being used to produce weapons of war. China, which controls the vast majority of the world's rare earth market, which are used to create critical electronics components, announced recently that all international purchases of these minerals will have to apply for a permit, and permission will not be granted to those manufacturing weapons and related technologies. And Trump is freaking out, claiming he has many cards that he can use against China while reverting to, you guessed it, more tariffs. But China is standing firm as it tells the Washington Warmongers, no more war. Today we'll go beyond the propaganda and check out all the details of China's new export restrictions that you will never hear about in Western media. This is Reports on China. I'm Andy Borham here in Shanghai. Let's get reporting. US President Donald Trump is freaking out after China announced new measures to control its rare earth mineral exports in the name of world peace. As you already know, China mines and refines the vast majority of the world's supply of said minerals, which are absolutely critical in the production of electronic components. That includes technology used in military equipment, including radar systems, missile guidance, drones, and smart bombs. China cutting off supply will suffocate the US's ability to continue producing weapons and supporting ongoing conflicts around the globe. But here's the thing the Western media will not tell you. China's new controls are clearly designed to shut down just that, military aggression and pointless death around the world, which the US plays a big part in, supporting hideous and unnecessary death and destruction on numerous fronts around the globe, with Ukraine and Gaza being just two examples. Let's take a closer look at the announcement from China's Ministry of Commerce. They mentioned that anyone wanting to buy Chinese rare earth minerals will need to apply for a dual-use permit, and that military uses will not be approved. The announcement reads, "In principle, export applications to overseas military users will not be approved." They go on to mention, and this is absolutely key here, that applications for the following uses will also not be approved. 1. Designing, developing, producing, and using weapons of mass destruction and their means of delivery. 2. Terrorist purposes. 3. Military use or enhancement of military potential. But the following point is something that you'll absolutely not read about in Western media about China's new rare earth export controls. That they have a clause whereby individuals and entities needing those minerals for good will not have to apply for a permit. The announcement reads, "For export applications where the end use is for humanitarian relief, such as emergency medical treatment, response to public health emergencies, and natural disaster relief, overseas export operators do not need to apply for export licenses for dual-use items." So it's clear to see China's aim here, world peace and stability. But that hasn't stopped Trump from flipping out, because he knows full well that his country's recent dominance of the globe and its extraordinarily privileged position and quality of life since the end of World War II was achieved through bullying and subjugation, partly through the strength of its military and its willingness to absolutely destroy any target that stood up to US supremacy in any way. Well, that is coming to an end. Trump, in his usual style, posted a long rant on social media, saying in part, "It has just been learned that China has taken an extraordinarily aggressive position on trade. Some very strange things are happening in China. There's no way that China should be allowed to hold the world captive with their monopoly on rare earths and virtually anything else they can think of." Interesting that he claimed there are some very strange things happening in China regarding the new rare earth mineral controls, since the reality is that it's actually very clear and very admirable what China is doing, putting its foot down and saying no more war. As just one example, it has literally become a hideous joke that the Western world, while claiming to care so much about human rights, has turned a blind eye to the absolute destruction of the Palestinian people over the past 2 years, allowing 70,000 men, women, and children to be slaughtered while the world watched on helplessly. No more. And it's no surprise either, with hideous moves in the US like Pete Hegseth changing the Department of Defense into the Department of War. Such a blatant and irresponsible declaration of the truth from the United States, where they admit that they are not defending themselves but actively partaking in war and death and destruction, most likely played a role in China's adult and humanitarian decision to shut them down and stop the madness. And Trump has retaliated in the only way he can, with the threat of more tariffs on ordinary Americans buying goods from China, which will only hurt his own people and continue his country's steady decline. Like China has always said, its goal is to help create a global community with a shared future, where peace and cooperation prevails, and bullying and war are a thing of the past. That is clearly evident in China's new rare earth mineral export controls, which aim to extinguish the West's ability to continue to use military power to subjugate and divide the world, and boost the use of technology for good. This is a clear win for China and the world at large, and a necessary wake-up call for the warmongers. And on that note, that will be it for today, you guys. But as always, I would love to hear your thoughts. Will China's rare earth controls force the US warmongers to think again? And will China be scared by Trump's threats of new tariffs? Do let me know down below, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help the channel. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.